So I allowed the relationship to grow. I intellectually decided that this was something that I should pursue. Sexually, it was no problem. It seemed to be very easy for me. I don't know why, it just was. Emotionally, I was very attracted. And she was so warm and so protective, and made things easier for me. She was not out. She was not a gay woman who professed her sexuality to the world. She was very careful about who she was and what her lifestyle was. I, on the other hand, felt very differently. I felt that if I was going to have this kind of relationship, I wanted it to be open. I didn't want to hide. I didn't want to have my children curious about what is mom doing? What is she doing with this woman? Is it, are they just hanging out together, or is something going on here? I felt that my children were sophisticated enough and educated by me enough to know that this is not a lifestyle that's to be shunned. That there are people who were born this way, or even if it's a choice, so what? It's the way it is, and everybody has a right to their own life, and everybody has a right to their own sexuality. And I think my children grew up knowing that. Excuse me. So I felt that it would be acceptable, but I also felt that there would be challenges. Whether I was ready to meet those challenges or not, I don't know. She had been gay all her life, so for her it was a challenge because I had a family that she was entering into. But on the other hand, she did not expect that I would be out and open. So it took a little time for all of this to evolve, and in the meantime, I was still working. I had left my husband already, but we were still kind of seeing each other. So I was seeing him and I was seeing her, and I really wasn't grounded. I wasn't sure of where I was going with this. I'm trying to remember specifically how I made the grand decision. And I guess what happened was she came over to my apartment one day and we had a great time together and decided she stayed overnight, and then she stayed over another night, and then we just started moving things around to make us both more comfortable in the apartment together. I remember my mother took me out one night and she questioned me about the relationship. She asked me if I was having a relationship with this woman. Grace was her name. And I said yes. And she said, well, are you a lesbian? And I said, I'm living a lesbian lifestyle, so I guess that makes me a lesbian. My mother found that very hard to tolerate. She got up from the table and left. And I said, look, you asked me, you wanted to know, and I told you. And it took her a couple of years to understand and to accept Grace into the family, but she did. Eventually she did. So this transition from being a very straight woman, I mean, I love men. I still love men. And I love men all through my relationship with Grace, which incidentally lasted 24 years. And would still have existed today if she were well. So my point was at that time that transitioning into a life where I shared almost nothing with my partner to a life where I was sharing everything. I mean everything. We cooked together. We worked together. She went to law school. I supported her. We supported each other while she went through law school. She was ill. We went through that together. We had all kinds of life experiences that we shared. Nothing was isolated. Everything was together. I miss her. I miss her a lot. She was the best thing that ever happened to me besides kids, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. That's all wonderful. But I miss the intimacy, the relationship that we had together. So the next change, the next big change that I had in my life was the change that occurred when she was ill. Grace was very ill for a long time. She had hepatitis C and ended up with a liver transplant. We went to a hospital far away and she had a liver transplant. And she was good. She was good for almost 10 years, which was remarkable. And then she developed, or perhaps it was always there, some liver cancer. And that took a few years. And she was a stoic. She continued to work. She had a law practice, a very successful law practice, and she continued to work. I was always there. I worked from home. I had an office in my home, so I was always there to support her when she wasn't well. And when she didn't feel too well, she worked part-time, and we managed. We always managed, but we were always there and supportive of each other. And it was quite a remarkable, wonderful, remarkable relationship. She loved my children. She loved my grandchildren. And if she were here, she would have adored my great-grandchildren.